IUL, Indexed Universal Life, was primarily built for living benefits.
I've always thought that life insurance was not an investment. In fact, it was a poor investment. I said, you have not been shown one that has been structured correctly. But that's called the 4% rule, which is unacceptable to me. I think it's pathetic. Now, if I need money out of a Roth, I can't touch the money I put into a Roth for 5 years or till I'm 59 and a half without a 10% penalty. If I put in $300,000 into an IUL policy, and 30 days later I need $200,000 back, I can take that back out again and use it for a business opportunity, emergency, or what have you.
In this episode, I'm going to show you that more than 95% of IUL is utilized for the living benefits, not the death benefits, for tax-free growth of your money and tax-free access, including tax-free retirement income. And I am going to show you why it is the best repository for all kinds of financial goals. It's the dream solution. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans optimize their assets, minimize taxes, and power what I call their authentic wealth. I focus on 3 dimensions of authentic wealth. Only one of those dimensions has to do directly with money, but we're talking about money right here, and people are blown away when I show them my favorite repository for serious cash. This is money that I don't want to jeopardize, I don't want to lose. And they say, what is it? And I go, it is a properly structured, maximum funded, indexed universal life insurance contract. And they go, what? I've always thought that life insurance was not an investment. In fact, it was a poor investment. I said, you have not been shown one that has been structured correctly. I've actually averaged since 1980, 9.62%. Since 1997, when indexing was introduced, I've averaged 11.17, netting 10.07 cash on cash, meaning the cost of the insurance only drained out 1 percentage point. Now, you show me any other investment, mutual funds, IRAs, 401ks, whole life insurance that can do that can net you cash on cash as if the insurance was coming along for the ride free, which it's not, nothing's free, but it's being paid for with a minuscule portion of money, interest, 1% usually at the end of the day, that would otherwise go out the window in unnecessary tax. To where I can net over 10%, which means my money will double every 7.2 years, rule of 72. And we've had many, many people that started out with 500 grand without adding a dime. It doubled to $1 million, and then 2 million, then 4 million, and then 8 million. And yeah, we have people in 30 years that 500,000 now is worth 8 million, and that 8 million at 10% can generate 800,000 a year of tax-free income the rest of their life. 800 a year, 800,000 a year without depleting principal. Yep. You show me any other investment that can do that, okay? And so if you properly structure IUL, you'll find that, like I have for many, many of my clients, 95% of the time, people didn't come to me really wanting or needing more death benefit. They wanted the dream solution as an alternative to IRAs and 401ks because they realized they weren't going to be in a lower tax bracket when they retire. And so they didn't want to put money in a tax-deferred IRA or 401k, and especially Wall Street was not designed to create predictable cash flow. Whenever you ask Wall Street, when's the best time to sell my mutual fund shares or my stocks or whatever, the answer is never, because they weren't designed to create positive cash flow. If you ask an asset manager to illustrate a payout out of $1 million nest egg invested in the market, they're going to be hard-pressed to show you an illustration much higher than 4%. It's called the 4% rule. Because L.A.S.E.R, who studies investor behavior, says the average person in America retiring with money in the market is only really averaging 3.49%. So if you pull out 4%, you're going to slowly deplete that $1 million nest egg, but not before your LE. LE is life expectancy. But that's called the 4% rule, which is unacceptable to me. I think it's pathetic that advisors accumulate $1 million nest egg And then they only want you to pull out 4% a year, 40,000, and you're only netting 30,000 after tax in a 25% tax bracket. If you subtract the 1% fees that they charge you annually on that $1 million, you're only netting 2%. How much more is 8 or 10 than 2? It's 400%, it's 500% more, it's 5 times more income. It is accomplished by using max-funded indexed universal life, okay? So the living benefits, let me just highlight some of the living benefits that I have utilized IUL, and I've helped thousands of my own clients do this. First of all, for me, it's a no-brainer that a max-funded IUL will knock the socks off of putting the same amount of money into traditional IRAs or 401ks. If you are a saver, you can understand that the premise that you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire is no longer true or axiomatic, okay? And so this is why savvy people end up considering a Roth. Well, if you've ever heard me on this channel say, I've never owned an IRA or 401k, yep, never will. But I've never owned a Roth IRA or 401k, never will. Why would I mess around with a qualified plan like a Roth or a traditional IRA or 401k when I can have those benefits and a whole lot more by using max-funded IUL? In a nutshell, if I use IUL, a lot of savvy CPAs and tax attorneys refer to max-funded IUL as the rich person's Roth. You don't have to be rich to have one. I mean, you can set up an IUL policy to accommodate just $500 a month, okay? But the wealthy people, they see it. This is where they put tons, millions of dollars of serious cash. Why? Okay, because if you make too much money, you can't participate in a Roth. Did you know that? You can only put in a certain dollar amount each year or a certain percent of your income if you do qualify for a Roth. But if you don't use the room in a given tax year, you lose it. With a max-funded IUL, I can design one to accommodate $30,000 a year of deposits or $300,000. I don't have to put in $300,000. I could put in $30,000. I could make up the other $270,000 anytime I want in the future. You can't do that with the Roth. You don't have that flexibility. Now, if I need money out of a Roth, I can't touch the money I put into a Roth for 5 years or till I'm 59 and a half without a 10% penalty. If I put in $300,000 into an IUL policy, and 30 days later, I need $200,000 back, I can take that back out again and use it for a business opportunity, emergency, or what have you. There's no 10% penalty by the IRS, okay? I don't like those strings attached. Roths don't use indexing. You'll learn if you claim a free copy of my book at the end of this episode, the L.A.S.E.R Fund. Indexing is a strategy. I'm not talking about index mutual funds, but it's a strategy that allows me to participate when the market goes up. And there's been years where I've locked in gains of 12, 16%, 25%, 61.33%, 158%. Yep. Not year in and year out. But I've averaged 11.17 since 1980, netting cash on cash over 10%. You show me any IRA or 401k invested in the market that can do that. That every $1 million can generate $100,000 a year of tax-free income. No, they use their 4% rule. And so I like to be able to use indexing to be able to participate when the market goes up and not lose when the market goes down. Roths don't do that. But Roths don't blossom when you die. What do I mean by that? If I died in an accident tomorrow, every $1 million I might have in a portfolio of L.A.S.E.R funds would blossom to about double that and pay out $2 million to my wife, my kids, my grandkids, a church, a charity. There's not a Roth around that'll do that, okay? Now, people say, well, how much does that cost? Well, nothing's free, but it doesn't cost me anything. It's being paid for with that minuscule portion of money that would otherwise go out the window in unnecessary tax. That 1% difference between the gross rate of return of 11 and the net internal rate of return of 10 that I've averaged. If you want to learn more, you've got to read my book, okay? But it knocks the socks off of any other retirement planning alternative. But people say, well, what else can you use it for? It's the dream solution for your children, grandkids, college education fund. Why would you mess around with a 529 plan that only limits you to so much and when you can only use it for college? What if your child gets a scholarship and doesn't need it? they'll have to pay tax on that. If you use a L.A.S.E.R fund, it's tax-free no matter what your child or grandchild uses the money for. It doesn't have to be for college. But if you happen to die, it's self-completing. They'll have the money to go to college if you don't stay around. If you don't stay around and put enough money into a 529 plan, then they don't get help. Why would you mess around with anything like a 529 plan when you can have something that's better? How about business owners, working capital for business? I have many savvy business owners. This is where they keep their working capital, not in a bank or credit union earning next to nothing. They put it in a portfolio of L.A.S.E.R funds, and then they can access that money. They become their own banker. They can withdraw or borrow money, and most of them borrow either with a zero net cost or they borrow at an index loan like my savvy clients do. They'll borrow $1 million for a business opportunity or for inventory, and they'll say, charge me 5%, but keep crediting me, the 8, the 10, the 12, the 61% on the $1 million that I'm leaving in my policy as collateral. The insurance company is loaning them the money using their cash value as collateral. They keep crediting the cash value, a higher rate of return than the net cost they're charging on the average. Some years, maybe not, but most years you're going to be making way more than the cost of the funds. This is how to become your own banker. Okay. This is what business owners understand. Would you hire an employee for 50 grand if that employee made you an extra 100 grand? That's what the IUL does. You're making 10%, the net cost is 5% if you simply borrow from the insurance company using your money as collateral. Now you can have your cake and eat it too. Well, that's what you do if you're a real estate investor. This is where savvy real estate people take their positive cash flow from rental properties and they don't give it to the mortgage company and create illiquid money sitting trapped in the property when things get bad. They keep that money in their insurance contract like I do. And I don't even put any down payments out of my pocket. I keep it all in my L.A.S.E.R funds. And usually if I earn 9 or 10%, let's just say 9% on every $1 million that I keep out of the property, and then I borrow on a mortgage $1 million, I borrow at 4.5% tax deductible interest in a 33% bracket. That's a net cost of 3. I'm paying 30 grand a year, but I'm making 90 grand a year on the $1 million that I didn't put into paying off the property. I'm making 300% rates of return because 90,000 is 300% more than 30,000. And I will actually be compounding money over here. This is a simple interest declining balance over here. I'll have enough money accumulating in my IUL that I will actually be able to pay off all the mortgages anytime I choose 2.5 years sooner than if I gave that money to the mortgage company. Do the math. I do it for you in my book. The same thing is true with an emergency fund. Why would you mess around with an emergency fund when banks and credit unions take 30 to 40% of their tier 1 assets and invest it into multi-trillion-dollar insurance companies? And they pay you a measly 1%, and they turn around and make 5%. They don't even link to an index. They make 5 times more than the cost of the funds. Bypass the middleman for an emergency fund. What emergency can't wait 48, 72 hours? You can access your money out of your L.A.S.E.R funds. Just keep a few $1,000 in the bank for an emergency that you might need money within, a few hours. But most emergencies aren't that urgent. But for school teachers, police officers, don't buy the most expensive life insurance policy you'll ever be sold by taking the state's survivor benefit pension, because they'll make you feel guilty if you don't share your pension with your spouse by saying, well, if you happen to pass away, don't you want your spouse to continue to get the income? Well, then you're going to have to take a reduced income. Instead of $5,000 a month, you're only going to get $3,600 a month. But if you die, your wife will keep getting, or your spouse will keep getting $3,600 a month. Sign here. You just gave up $1,400 a month. That's the most expensive life insurance policy that has no flexibility you will ever be sold. Don't do that. If your wife or your spouse predeceases you, you can't remarry and name your new spouse as a beneficiary. You cannot leave it behind to your kids. If you use a max-funded indexed insurance contract, you can keep renaming the beneficiaries. You can leave it behind to your kids. You don't miss out, and you'll be way ahead. There are so many uses for max-funded IUL. It's the dream solution. So more than 95% of IUL is used, like I've been talking about, for living benefits, not the death benefit. If you want to read about these and several more in my book, this is 300 pages. 200 of these 300 pages are charts and graphs and explanations. But if you're a right-brain learner, you flip it over, and this has 62 actual client stories of how max-funded IUL is the dream solution for many financial goals. So simply go to laserfund.com, click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost, and I'll pay for the book and fire out a hard copy to you. When you're in there, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, check out those options. There's even a master class. We teach regular free webinars you can register for. You can even schedule an appointment with an IUL certified professional to see how these strategies may apply in your particular set of circumstances. So here is to you and your brighter future.